Welcome to the Conquer Food podcast with Craig and Paula Williams, where we share tips, tricks and strategies from the coalface of the weight loss industry in the UK. We're going to help you to think, eat and move better. Ultimately, we're going to help you finally gain control and conquer food. Hey up and welcome back to the Conquer Food podcast. I've got an amazing guest with me today and I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot of inspiration, motivation, all the shuns from this, in fact maybe even a bit of attention from Chris today. So my guest is Chris Sharpe, who has not only got an amazing story, an incredible story, which some of you will be able to relate with on some respects. I'm pretty sure it will blow a lot of people's minds. But not only has he done that, he then has been on the 12-week Conquer Food program, and he's gone through that, lost an incredible amount of weight. So we'll talk about that and some of the things that he's picked up and he's applied to his own life to change his life. And now he's part of the TEAM Bootcamp team, and he's working to be a trainer, which is just phenomenal. You know, the whole progression, the whole story in that is absolutely amazing. So pin your ear back. This is going to be a great episode. Chris, thanks for joining me today. I know you've had a long day training up at boot camp, so you were probably a little bit tired, so we'll keep it as succinct as we can. Chris, just give me a bit of I don't want to do that usual kind of, I'm Chris and, you know, all that kind of stuff. A whistle-stop tour, a big overview, and then we'll talk a lot more in depth about each aspect of your journey. Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Reading, and on the outside of it all, I had loving parents, two brothers, amazing grandparents, but there was a bit of a darker side to that. And, we'll talk about a little bit of that today if you like. But yeah, moving on from that, I made a decision quite early on in my early teens, in fact, that I wanted to join the military. And as soon as I was old enough, when I was 18, I joined the army and I went into the infantry, and I spent 11 years in there, and it was absolutely amazing. You know, thoroughly enjoyed it. It come with its difficulties, especially for me. And there were some things that I struggled with, you know, because of operational tours and bits and pieces like that, and probably some of my childhood. I then left the military after 11 years in and did 3 years doing maritime security, so kind of bobbing up and down on the Indian Ocean, Red Sea, those kind of places, and just stopping Somali pirates from, doing their job and taking vessels and cargo and crew and all the rest of it as ransom. So I did that for 3 years, and then I left that and things really started to become difficult. I had a whole multitude of jobs. I'll admit this for the first time openly. I was a door-to-door karate salesman for a few weeks. Karate? How was that? That was shocking. Did you get the chop, shocking. Did you? Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. But then I ended up in construction, and what I realised is I wasn't very good at it. But I then got qualified as a site manager, and I seemed to be okay at managing people, but it came with a lot of stress, and my mental health had been deteriorating over a period of time, and eventually I had to give up work. So that all came to a head, and really I went to all the normal places that you'd expect to get help, and I don't know if let down's the right word, but it was very challenging, and I hit roadblock after roadblock.
So is it veteran services? Is it public health services? I mean, you know, what you kind of saying?
Public health services, right. Actually being a veteran allowed me to certain privileges that other people wouldn't have received.
Yeah.
That I spent time with, you know, when I was in hospital for periods of time. But I was able to access extra help because I was a veteran. So basically there's just a lack of funding, a lack of resources, and not necessarily the expertise to deal with some of the problems that I had. Yeah. And as a result of that, there was lots of shrugging shoulders from, you know, consultant psychiatrists and doctors and nurses and these kind of people. And I just found that I was walking into a brick wall constantly.
And I spent some time being a bit of a victim about it, if I'm honest. And, you know, I'm never going to get better because, yeah, you know, I'm not getting the help that I should be getting, and these people aren't doing their jobs. And then at some point,
you're kind of blaming other people then, were you?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I blamed everyone else for my problems except for me. Or, you know, my problems weren't all my fault, obviously, but the way that I chose to deal with them it was something that I could control and have influence over, and I just wasn't really. And it was just easy to use the excuse and kind of have a bad attitude towards those individuals. I ended up reading a book, and it's a guy that you'll know, and I know, Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
And I read his book, Extreme Ownership. It won't be for everyone, you know, but it resonated with me a lot because it's you know, based on military experiences. And I realized that everything that had happened through my life, I couldn't take ownership over it, but I could take ownership over the way that I'd reacted to it. And as a result, I decided there and then on a few things that started the changes in a positive way for me to really begin to tackle the problems that I faced.
Yeah. So let's just, because I mean, you know, that's very broad brush.
Yeah.
And I know, you know, there's a lot of other stuff gone there. So if you could like briefly, I mean, how low did you kind of get? I mean, you know, how sort of severe was it?
Yeah. So I got to the point on 4 separate occasions where I wanted to take my own life. If I'm truthful and look back at it, 2 of those times were a cry for help. You know, I was desperate for someone to help me, and I just didn't seem to be getting anywhere. And 2 other times, I really decided that the best thing I could possibly do, and the only way to not have to go through another day of how I was feeling, was not to be here at all. So I took it on myself on those 2 occasions. One, I took an overdose, and actually before that, I hung myself while I was on hospital ward. And they were real low points in my life, you know, but I've met some amazing people on my journey that have saved my life. Someone that we have as a mutual friend, Phil Work being one of them, and my best friend, Dean. He's not really my friend, he's my brother. I call him my brother, and he really is. We served together for a long time, and then we've been in each other's lives on and off over 20 odd years. So yeah, absolutely amazing guy. And without some of the people that I've met, you know, I wouldn't be where I am now. And of course, you know, without blowing smoke up your rear end, you know, both you and Paula, with everything that you've got going on, you know, with TEAM Bootcamp and with Conquer Food, you've kind of, it was the final piece of the jigsaw for me, getting fit and active, but I didn't realize how much of an important part it would play on my mental health as well. And you two have both given me my life back, which is massive.
So, I mean, we'll come on to that in a little bit. And you're incredibly humble, by the way, because, you know, all these things that you're talking about, they're all tools, and ultimately you've got to pick it up and, you know, and use it. Hammers are brilliant for putting nails in a wall, but you've got to pick it up and use it, you know. So, you know, fair play to yourself, really. So just, you know, obviously the people that are listening to this, the majority, I mean, they'll be touched by your story there, but the majority of them will have similar, I'm not saying everybody, you know, nobody's in the depths of where you were, but health-related stuff, you know, like just paint a picture of what your health was like, or your fitness was like, you know, what kind of things were you battling every day? How was you eating? You know, and really I'm just trying to, for people to kind of go, actually, that sounds a lot like me, you know, and then, so.
Well, actually, if I take it back to when I was in the military, I thought I was fit and healthy, you know, and the reality is not so much, because some of the quality of the food and the nutrition that you receive when you're in the military isn't always great, but it does serve a purpose to kind of get you through each day of training and being, you know, doing physical kind of arduous tasks. But coming away from that, I've never been very motivated to cook and things like that and kind of look after myself in that way. And it's always been a struggle since I've been separated and then divorced. And if I'm honest with you, when coronavirus came in, I suppose it gave me a bit of an excuse to just use Just Eat and Deliveroo. And literally over that 18-month period, I was living on 3 takeaways a day. So I'd have usually McDonald's for breakfast. I'd have a Subway for lunch. Very occasionally it'd be a salad, but I dare say there was a lot of rubbish in that too.
Yeah.
And then in the evening it'd be a kebab, a Chinese or an Indian or something like that. You know, maybe, Italian or something, but everything would be takeaway. I'd have someone come into my door 3 times a day. And then if I did go out, I'd be stopping off to get chocolate and sweets and bags of crisps and stuff like that at service stations and things. And I lived like that for 18 months. And the long-term consequences of doing that was I became type 2 diabetic. When I came to camp, I was 23 stone, and I had been that weight for quite some time. But I also have something called left ventricular hypertrophy, which is a problem with the heart. And that was partly because some of the medication that I was taking to do with my mental health, but also because I was treating myself so badly, and there are a lot of underlying reasons. The issue's never the issue, right? So my poor physical health isn't really because I was eating badly. It's because of the mental aspect of what was going on for me. That I hated myself. I turned up at boot camp and I despised myself and pretty much everything about me. I was not a fan of my own at all.
Yeah.
And I just, everything was like, what's the point? What's the point? I'm not worth the effort.
So what were the, you spoke there about, perhaps like self-worth and self-esteem being like the deep drivers, but what were some like the less, the more superficial drivers, for eating? Like, was it boredom? Was it?
Yeah, definitely boredom. And of course, it tasted good, right? And sure, I'd feel guilty after, but I'd be doing it again at lunchtime and I'd be doing it again at dinner. The boredom, my mental health, obviously it's a vicious circle because the more rubbish I'm eating, the more rubbish I'm feeling. So the less chance I've got of leaving my flat and being active. And it was a vicious circle that, what's the point in doing fitness? Because I'm not fit enough to do anything.
Yeah.
And so I might as well just continue to eat. So
and were people saying to you, why don't you try and get out and be a bit, what was you sort of thinking
so Dean,
to that?
my best mate, he tries to keep on top of me all the time about it because he knew the benefits that I could have from it.
Yeah.
But I just didn't see it. And I was working on myself mentally. But unfortunately, I didn't see how the two would go hand in hand. And I didn't realise what a huge effect getting fit and getting healthy would have on me. And I'm really shocked.
Yeah. Well, that's a great little, what do they call it? Easter egg for later in the podcast. Okay. So just take your mind back to that time there.
Yeah.
And like, where did you think it was going to end? Like, how did you think, if you'd have carried on that trajectory, where would you have ended up?
So I'd invested in myself with time and effort to start dealing with some of the mental aspects of what I was going through. And then it suddenly occurred to me that was all great, but I'd probably be dead at 42 with a heart attack or having a limb chopped off because of diabetes,
Yeah.
And that really scared me. It's like, I've been to Afghan twice and come back with all of my digits, and now I'm going to lose a leg because of, something.
Subway.
Because of Subway, and McDonald's and everything else.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, I can't live with that. That can't be the way things go. So, so I kind of reached out to Phil Quirk, who we know, and he kind of put me in touch with you guys. And I realised that I needed to do something, and I needed to do something like now, not, in a month's time. And 3 weeks later, I'm on the course.
So what, do you remember like the run up to it? I mean, obviously, we had a conversation before you kind of booked, and, it was clear that you made your mind up. You was going to do this, and then How did you feel with that? And it is a bit of a loaded question, because I always say that when people come to camp, they've got 3 main fears. One is that it won't work for them. Okay. 2 is that they're not going to be able to cope. And 3 is that they won't fit in. So with all that in mind, like, how did you, did you feel those
all
3?
All 3 of those.
Tick, tick, tick.
Definitely, yeah, on the spot. What I did like, when I spoke to you and Paula, one of the things that really stuck with me that you said was that, don't worry about getting fit. That'll just happen. Because you're going to be eating right and you're going to be exercising. For you, it's going to be more about the mental aspect, the mindset aspect, looking deeply into that and the drivers behind why you're treating yourself the way that you are. And again, that's been the biggest change for me. And I have got fitter and lost weight, but I didn't focus on that so much because of what you said, and that made it better for me. I wasn't putting myself under pressure. I must lose this amount. I must do this. So it really helped. And obviously the mental aspect of it all, has just changed me completely.
So what can you share? Do you know your results? Like what weight? Because that's why we, very crudely,
absolutely.
that's how we measure our progress. But
so I was 23 stone and 2 pound.
Yeah.
And that was on the dot. And I left at 18 stone and 2 pounds. So I lost 5 stone in 12 weeks.
It's incredible amount of weight.
Yeah.
And, I'll have to do the maths and work out exactly how many calories you've had to burn. That's it is incredible. It's like half a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a phenomenal journey, and I just found that the longer I went on, I was actually losing really good, like 7 pounds a week towards the end, because I had so much more mobility from all the recovery work that you do. But also having lost some weight up until then, about when I hit the 3.5 stone mark, it just seemed to rocket from there. And the other 1.5 stone come off so easy, and I could do more. And
did you have a target when you was kind of coming on the program? Did you have a target in mind?
Yeah. So I knew when I came back off my second tour of Afghan, I was in reasonably good shape, and I was 17 stone then.
Right.
So my target is to get down to there and see how I feel. But also I know that my body shape will change, because I'm looking at different types of fitness that I want to do for both longevity and also because it interests me.
Yeah.
So there's always a bit give and take with that. Maybe it'll be 16.5, maybe it'll 17.5, but my target was 17, so 6 stone in total. But I never thought that I would lose even close to that during the 12 weeks.
So that was like your long term, this
absolutely.
is where I want to be. Yeah.
I remember sitting down with Ash and saying, I don't expect to lose that. It's like 81 pound or whatever it was, and actually I'd lost 70 pound when I finished, which was like, to me, it blew my mind.
Was there times when you thought, I can't do this? Or what really shook you? I'm just looking over your shoulder there. That the gift you gave me is on the shelf. On the shelf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there times when you was like, what was the biggest shock?
Actually, one of the biggest shocks was being around people, because my circle is extremely small. And obviously with coronavirus,
a diverse type of people,
Yeah. And obviously no one within our group really came from my background. So I felt very different.
Yeah.
And, you were saying like one of the things people worry about is, will they fit in? And it was very much like that for me. And I kind of had quite extreme views of what like teamwork was and those kind of things. And I've had to adapt those a bit, because I've worked with some people for 12 weeks that their model of the world, their idea of what teamwork was very different to mine, and but that's okay. And maybe my idea of what a team is very extreme, and the way that you behave within that and how you work together. So I learned a huge amount, but there were times where I found it very difficult, and I'm sure they found it very difficult with me as well.
Yeah. So if you cast your mind back and think, right, this was a pivotal moment, like what was it? There might have been occasions or conversations or realizations, like what were some of your pivotal moments?
Yeah. There's so many. But it's just picking up on things that people said, like 80% of the time you won't want to train, but 100% of the time you'll feel better for it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's so true, isn't it? Yeah. Because like 80% of the time here, I don't want to do it, but I'm disciplining myself enough to turn up to each parade and get after it. And it was paying off, and it was making me feel better every day. Pivotal moment for me as well was coming off my medication for type 2 diabetes. That was huge.
How soon into the program was that? I mean, that's nothing for the Conquer Food program. That's nothing new. What is, if anyone's not listened to some of our podcasts before, other people have spoke about this, and before people realize that actually you can address it. It's food and lifestyle. You can address it. It's not this progressive disease that's going to kill you, like the health service tell you. Believe it is. Yeah. How soon into the program was that?
I'm pretty sure it was between week 4 and week 5. It was some point through there where actually we were testing my blood sugar, and it was getting so low. Yeah. And the medication I was taking was making it lower, that it was like, I need to come off my medication, because I've been eating so well, even over the short period of time. I mean, you pretty much live like an athlete.
Yeah.
you know, with the amount of training you're doing, the amount of recovery specific sessions that you do in a week, the amount of mindset that you do, all of those things, and absolutely the nutrition that you take on board to fuel you to be able to do that. So, you know, I didn't realize it'd be that fast. I thought, oh, maybe at the end of 3 months I can go back to my doctor and we can have a conversation about coming off it. But actually having to come off it because the medication was not doing me any favors to continue on my journey was amazing. And the same for my blood pressure medication as well. So having hypertension and the left ventricular hypertrophy. So basically that's just a hardening of the wall on the left side of my heart. And it's just making it harder to pump the blood around my body because it's becoming thicker and more solid. So that was causing me to have high blood pressure. And again, you know, within weeks, it was roughly about the same time. There might have been like a few days in it. But I was coming off the medication that I was taking for my blood pressure as well, which was phenomenal. I couldn't believe it. So that was a huge pivotal moment for me because I realized I had real, how can I explain it? For me, I had something real that had happened to me during my journey. And it was like, if I can do this in 4 or 5 weeks, what can I do in the other 6, 7?
Yeah, something that's it's like as tangible as health's going to get, isn't it, really? It's like I'm no longer have to take these pills. Yeah. And the route, you know, you carry on with that, the dose is going up. That's the only thing that's changing. You know what I mean? When you start to change from the inside out and you no longer have to take these pills.
Yeah.
That is, it's as tangible as you're going to get it, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all the fears that came with that, like I say, you know, I say, you know, a bit of banter and joking, but it really bothered me that I would end up losing something.
Yeah.
Having been through what I'd been through in my life and kind of got away with it really, that I would then go on to lose something because I wasn't looking after myself and I was killing myself just with food.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what did you? So, some of the down times, you know, we've spoke about some of the big pivotal moments and all that. Were there times when you was like, "The fuck am I doing here?"
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the first 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, like I cried a lot. I'll be open about that.
What was behind the tears? Like,
my personal view, I mean, I had a lot of stuff going on mentally anyway, but I think what exacerbated that early on was the sugar withdrawal. I mean, that's huge. And you're going to go through that, you know, any type of withdrawal from anything is going to create emotions and feelings. But
yours was pretty erratic. I remember we had to put a sensor on you, didn't we, to continuous glucose monitor on your arm to kind of keep a track of it. So, you know, you obviously went through the ringer a bit with the sugar withdrawal.
I still remember you knocking on the door of the toilet after the first day on the first session with me throwing up, you know, just because I was so unfit as well. So, you know, I was so unfit, I couldn't do more than 1 session. And by the end of the 12 weeks, I was doing 3 to 4 sessions a day. And I did a fight camp as well, which was amazing. It was so much fun, but brutal at the same time. But I did that.
Yeah.
Just the evolution of where I started from to where I ended was amazing. But the sugar withdrawal was really hard. But it's part of the process. You know, there were times where I thought, am I doing the right thing? I was fortunate as well because my phase 1 of training when I joined the military was approximately 13 weeks it was. So I just said to myself, if I can get through that, I can get through this. Yeah. There were definitely aspects of Conquer Food that were harder than that. I'm not going to lie. But what you get at the end of it, you know, my palate changed. You know, I've gone away and I've eaten a couple of sugary things and not been able to finish them and not enjoyed them and not liked them. And that's kept me away from it. So it shows how powerful, you know, sugar can be in kind of leading you down quite a bad path. And you've got to look at everything and be on the ball with it all. But for me, the sugar withdrawal was really quite hard. But the good thing is that obviously I was in a team of people and we were all kind of going through it. You know, don't get me wrong, like not everyone would have a bad day at the same time. And you'd think you were on your own on your day and you were the only one going through it. But actually there was plenty of other people, you know, or everyone in fact that was going through it in some way and it affected everyone different. No one had a period of time where they didn't struggle. But it's just accepting and realising that there is an end to this. You know, once I get out the back of week 3, week 4, things are going to be very different.
When you look at the program, you sort of look back. What aspects of the program kind of are you proud about, or when you sort of think, that was a tough moment and I got through it,
Yeah. I remember there was one occasion where there was an odd number of us in the group, and I did the exercises for me and my now imaginary partner. So I did everything.
So you did twice.
Yeah.
And just to paint a picture, I mean, obviously, people listening to this or watching this or whatever, all the exercises scaled to your ability.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
People work at different intensity levels and all this kind of stuff. However, would you agree that the sessions you do at camp are not like the circuit training you do at your local global
absolutely.
gym? They're pretty intense.
Yeah, they're really intense. The great thing about the trainers is there's always regressions to be offered. Like, even though I come from a military background, I could not do a press up again when I came here because of how big I'd got, and I can do press ups again. Full proper press ups. I could barely do a half press up on my knees, if I'm honest. When I rocked up, things were that bad, and I'm now doing normal press ups. So, again, huge to be able to get back in and do those things. But it's very intense. And the great thing as well about the sessions is, as you could do the same session every week, let's just say. And the great thing is you go through each week, it's still always as hard as it was the first week, because even though you get fitter, you just push yourself more. So it ends up that, let's take press ups, for example. You were doing 5 or 6 half press ups, and now you're doing 10 proper press ups. So you're still gassed at the end of the session. You're still working hard, but the regressions that are available by the trainers and their knowledge and expertise are absolutely.
Well, we'll come on to them monkeys in a minute. But so this particular session, you had to double up and do everything.
And I completed it, and I remember thinking, what on earth was I thinking that I could do 2 people's worth of work? But it was then I was like, wow, look what I've achieved. I've had no rest. I've just got on and done it. People were getting rest because they were working in a 2, and I had to try and keep up. I mean, obviously I didn't finish first. I did finish last, but I was like less than 5 minutes behind the last people to finish. And I'd done 2 people's lot without, 2 people's worth of work without a rest.
Just sort of throwing, just out of interest.
Yeah.
If you could use 3 words to describe Chris Sharpe back in the day, when you was really struggling, what would those words be?
Tired.
Yeah.
Of just existing. So tired is one. Miserable, and just unfit.
Yeah.
And I mean that to, I'm like, unfit for purpose as a human being, as a father, as a friend, as a family member.
Yeah, that's strong. I mean, it's nearly brings a tear to these all that. So and then now, like 3 words to describe Chris Sharpe now.
Yeah.
What would they be?
On fire. I can big myself up for a moment now. No, alive.
Yeah.
3 times. I'm alive. I don't exist. I'm alive in everything that I do. Alive in the moment and excited.
Yeah.
3 things that I haven't been for a long time.
There's obviously a few people that we've not mentioned that have been involved in your journey on the Conquer Food program.
Yeah.
And, if you could pick out a handful of people and kind of say, some of the reasons why they played a big part in it or whatever, who would they be?
TEAM Bootcamp wise?
Well, Conquer Food. And
Food. Oh, yeah. Well,
whether it's other Conquer Foodies or whether it's your trainers,
My entire team, I learned something from all of them. Even the ones that there was stress and pressure with, because there's often friction.
A bit of friction, yeah.
And it's needed, definitely, because that friction allowed me to learn from that, and I made mistakes, and no doubt they did as well, but I learned from every one of them. So, I was in a group of 6 people originally, and I learned so much from all of them and took a little something. and hopefully they took a little something from me as well, staff and trainer wise. I mean, like Bianca was fantastic, having one-to-ones and listening to her and Paula and their passion with the actual Conquer Food side of things, sitting there during the week and having the sessions with them and really completely, totally rethinking the way that we thought about food. And the trainers, I predominantly had Ash and Kev. And yeah, I mean, Ash, he's so intelligent in his subject, so knowledgeable, and the same with Kev as well. But all the trainers have been great. There's no complaints at all about any of them. But I think for me personally, I've got on really well with Ash. Just resonated with him, liked the banter. The thing that I really like as well is we do so many different types of training with Ash that you can find something that you like to take on when you leave, because ultimately, your 12 weeks comes to an end, or however long you're going to be there for, and it's about then going home and being able to do those things. So I've looked at different types of training that I've done and used during Conquer Food to enable myself to hopefully continue doing the things that I want to do into my 60s. Like I've got into weightlifting, back into spinning as like a low impact thing rather than running, because, these knees and hips are getting on a bit and get painful sometimes. So yeah, I think just the knowledge and expertise from those guys, and yourself as well, Craig. You coming in, and I never realised how important nutrition was until you started to, excuse the pun, but feed us the information, right?
Yeah.
It was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, so we're gonna kind of park that for a bit, and then we're gonna move into like the next chapter, because obviously your time with the Conquer Food program and with TEAM Bootcamp hasn't finished on graduation of the Conquer Food program. So just to sort of explain what I mean by that is Chris is going through the training to become an advanced personal trainer, combining the knowledge of the Conquer Food program and his own military service to be a bootcamp instructor. So one of the trainers who we don't necessarily like to call them trainers, we prefer coaches, because I think anyone can set up a session, but it takes someone special to coach people that are perhaps struggling or got problems and all this kind of stuff. So what have you done now? You've done a couple of weeks, haven't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so this is my second week. Yeah, and it's been amazing. I was up at Top Camp with the guys up there for my first week.
So Top Camp is the traditional military style boot camp that you probably imagine. So people come for 1 or 2 weeks, not quite as long, rapid weight loss, rapid fitness. Yeah,
absolutely. And they all bought into the week, myself and Ash were up there for that week, and we pushed them hard, but they were all really receptive. They took everything on board, and it was amazing to see, their losses at the end of the week, but also they gained a great deal as well, even within like the mindset realms, even though it is predominantly about the exercise that you're doing up there. I think they were all that little bit closer to where they wanted to be as people.
Yeah. How do you find, how do people react to your story when you kind of explain almost how you've come up through the ranks and that,
Yeah. I think, I think I get respect for that.
Yeah.
I mean, and when they're struggling, like I really genuinely know how they're feeling. Like, it's not just a throwaway comment. Oh yeah, I know how you feel. I really do. I've been there. I've had Ash carry me out in tears before.
I think some like trainers they kind of forget like what DOMs and muscle aches and all that, what it feels like. And I don't think unless you've been through boot camp like that, like they don't quite understand how hard it is to pick yourself up at the start of every day and go at it again. So that empathy is massive.
Yeah. I think you're right, but I do think that the guys are quite good at picking up on the energy levels of people and knowing just when to back off enough, still getting out of people, still getting that hard work out of people, but not perhaps putting the extra pressures on them.
Yeah.
It seems to have a good balance, because ultimately, from my experience, I got through the 12 weeks, right? So it wasn't like I did leave, and it wasn't like, I failed miserably. I got through and lost a lot more than I ever thought I would. So there's a good balance there, and the guys get it right, a lot. Yeah. So yeah.
And then you was back down to the Conquer Food program, and you was kind of
this week,
helping out. And how's that gone?
Yeah, amazing. Again, the guys are really receptive. It's amazing to see over the 2 weeks that I've been away from them, or 2.5 weeks, how much they've changed when I came back. Not just body shape, but their mindset. There's people there that have been really resistant in the past to different diets and different ways of doing things and different exercise routines and all of these things, and they've really bought into it 100%, and they're changing, and it's amazing to see that.
So, and I want to kind of provide some tips and advice, really. Obviously you've made some incredible changes, and people can understand how your life has changed now for the better. And I just wonder if you look at all three aspects. So if you look at the food, the fitness, and then the mindset stuff, like what if you could have a couple of like big hitting tips for each of those aspects. We'll start with the training, because it's usually an easy one.
Yeah.
What are the like 2 or 3 biggest things that you've learned that people can apply in their own training, whether it's changing a perception or changing the way of, you get what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things I'd say for training is motivation is great. I say this to the guys all the time, right? They're probably tired of me saying it, but motivation is great, but it won't always be there. And it's discipline. Motivation will let you down. Discipline will set you free.
Yeah.
And that's a massive thing for me. And I'm realizing how important it is that even on that day when you don't want to get out of bed and you don't want to do it, it's important. But that goes across the board for everything. And another thing with the training is hydration. Just like keep getting water down your neck all the time. Don't rely on all these different fizzy drinks and these energy drinks and stuff like that. It's all just packed with sugar, and it's not good for you. Water's amazing, bottled water or from the tap or wherever you can get it from, but keep hydrated. It's going to help with the DOMs. It's going to help with weight loss. It's going to help with a multitude of things, but ultimately keeping hydrated and just realizing when you think you're done, there's still more in the tank.
Yeah.
You're only 60% done. There's a whole 40% that you haven't found yet, and you need to reach in and learn through being comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is something like, we're used to from our backgrounds, but realizing that you've always got more in the tank. When you think you're done, you're not.
That's great advice. So, and then the food, like the nutrition kind of stuff, that obviously changed drastically, but what you...
Yeah. So be patient with the food. So if you're giving up sugar, or you come on, anything to do with TEAM Bootcamp, and you're spending an extended period of time, be patient, because nothing happens overnight. It takes time to go through that sugar withdrawal. It takes time for your palate to change, for you to start to really find more taste in the things that you didn't, because you're now not hooked on sugar. And also that when you leave, be organized, like really be organized. And we used to have a saying in the military, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Don't overcomplicate what you're doing, because it makes it harder for you to keep on top of. Keep everything as simple as you can, actually, whether that be your training or nutrition, just keep it simple.
Yeah. And I kind of describe it as like just getting in the grind. People they say they want lots of variety, but it's not your friend. Like, variety is not your friend, you know what I mean? But the same, keep, like you said, keep it simple, keep it pretty basic. That really is your friend. Okay. Now, lots of people, and how many times have you been said, you need to be doing some mindset, Chris? You know what I mean? And it's hard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stupid me, why don't I just think positively all the day?
Yeah.
So what big things have you learned sort of mindset wise, or not what you've learned, but what can other people use?
Yeah.
In life, not just at camp or on the Conquer Food program.
Yeah. It's having an open mind. The biggest thing that I found throughout my whole journey, whether it be mental health or now, this aspect of looking after my body better, is that people aren't open-minded. They just prescribe to one thing and one thing only. And if it doesn't work, well, I've tried and it doesn't work. try as many different things as you can and be open-minded about that mindset, you know. I've tried so many different things, so many different types of therapies, you know, very few have worked for me. And that's not a reflection of the individuals that were, you know, providing the therapy. But just for me personally, they haven't worked. And as a result, I've had to get creative. You know, I've done some different things. Like, I'm a big advocate of cold water therapy. Now, I would never have found that if I had just felt sorry for myself for the rest of my life, saying, well, I went to CBT and that didn't work for me, you know, and actually it has. And the great thing about cold water is it's great for depression and mental health, but it's also really good for your recovery after you've trained. So, you know, start embracing it. And the more you do it, the more inoculated you become to it. So it's not such a shock. So yes, being open-minded is absolute key, you know, and I have people ask me about my experiences with, you know, from the veteran side, from certain charities that help and, you know, and I've been asked already about my thoughts about TEAM Bootcamp and things like that. And ultimately it's like, well, I can tell you that, but if you're going to rely on what I say as to what that's going to make you feel about it, then no, I'm not going to tell you. You need to go and experience it and tick that off your list yourself. Yeah. You know, that's important.
So we're going to start wrapping up soon. This has been a great episode to, you know, it's been great to chat to you about this. What if you could recommend a couple of resources, books, podcasts, films, whatever, what would, you know, a couple of things that you would recommend?
Okay, so a couple of books by Jocko Willink is Discipline Equals Freedom, definitely, and also Extreme Ownership. Extreme ownership, especially if you don't mind looking at military aspects of things, because obviously it all comes from that really within that book. And you know, there's so many resources out there, isn't there? You know, like listening to this podcast is going to help you and give you some ideas. And there's so much out there on YouTube that you can find. And it's about finding what I would say is, you know, if you're making changes, one of the most important things you can do is to find a community to do it with. So whatever you're going to do, like whether it's boxing or running or I don't know, like love it or hate it, CrossFit is one of those things where actually they have an amazing community. Yeah. And joining a community of some sort is going to help you to stick at it, and you're going to get social side out of it, you know, as well, but you're also going to get fitter and healthier because people are going to feed you information. So there's so many resources out there, but ultimately anything that provides you a community.
Yeah, and just one last tip, if I can, because I'm you know, plugging all night for different tips. If someone is in such a rut, such a deep rut like you were, you know, how do they? What's the first step there? You know, what was the first step for you? You know, how can they start to break free?
It's to not be in denial, to accept where you're at and be really brutally honest. Go look in the mirror and take a marker pen and start writing everything around the mirror that is wrong. And you need to be brutal. Do not blame other people for anything. Like, take ownership of what your situation is, because, you know, if you're in that rut, as I was, there was so much I could be doing, but I wasn't because I was too busy blaming the world. And I know, you know, if you're listening to the podcast right now, that's going to be quite a hard pill to swallow, but you need to suck it up and get it down you, and then move forward.
Okay. Oh, geez, a bit loud. Chris, it really has been a privilege talking to you.
Thanks,
but it's been incredible watching you progress, you know, and to see where you are right now. I mean, I knew of you before you came onto the Kung Fu program, and then I just remember this giant of a guy in every sense walking in, and I was, you know, that was the first time I met you, and then just seeing the progress has been incredible.
It's been amazing.
So thanks for sharing that. Have you got any sort of last mantra that you live by or whatever to share with people?
I was like what Winston Churchill said, and that's, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Well done, man. You've definitely done that. Good work.